This is the moment you've all been waiting for. Live with the best father and son team on the internet. It's time for Homie and the Dude.
What is happening, everyone? This is Homie and the Dude, the father and son TTRPG podcast, and we are delighted and thrilled to have Will, aka DnDShorts, join us today. Will, we've been looking forward to this conversation for a while, so thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, man. It's such an honor to be here with you both. Yeah, so cool.
We actually really appreciate it, man. You've taken the time out of your day. We know that you've just had a humongous Kickstarter, and we're not talking just about the size of the amount of backing and the amazing funding that's gone for it. We're talking about also just the content in this motherfucker. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
absolutely
enormous.
Crazy.
Yeah,
it's like 5 Kickstarters, dude.
Yeah, it really.
Yeah, we kept adding more books as we were making it, because we were like, this can't fit in one book. Okay, it's 2. Okay, now it's 3. I think now it's 4. Kind of. It's like 3 hardbacks and a softback. Yeah, it's wild. It just kind of gets away from you.
Dude, it's absolutely mad, and it's been amazing to watch from the side, see how this thing's grown, and as fans of your content, it's been amazing to kind of witness. I want to ask you though, dude, you've ended up in this space. A couple of years ago, life was very different, I imagine, and now you're here, doing the amazing stuff that you're doing. What made you choose D&D, like YouTube and shorts, and what made you dive into this rabbit hole that you are now lost in Wonderland and deep down in this whole?
I think he's the lord of the rabbit hole.
Yeah. What went on, and how did you get to this whole place in the first place?
Well, I was working on YouTube before DnDShorts. I worked for a company called What Culture, who were kind of like a pop media, like a British pop media outlet, sort of similar to Watch Mojo. Like, they do a lot of top 10 lists. I covered a lot of comics. I covered a lot of films, games. It was a lot of fun. So I kind of knew how to make a video. I got that job initially as a writer, and then they heard my voice and they were like, oh, you can probably, it's quite an easy job being a YouTuber, really. Like, you just need to talk. So, okay, you can read stuff out loud. And I kind of learned to edit eventually as well. And I was always on the lookout for a way to approach it for myself, rather than working for someone, just being totally independent, completely setting my own hours. So for a long time, I knew I wanted to make a channel, but I didn't know what on. I just needed to find something I was passionate enough about to do. And then kind of along that journey, I started playing D&D, and then eventually they just kind of clicked. I was like, wait, this shorts feed thing has just started. This was like month 0. It was brand new. And I was like, I think it might have some legs. Like, I'm going to try making content, because it's perfect if you don't have much time, right? I had a full-time job, which I really liked. I didn't want to just leave it. So I was like, I can set aside 20 minutes to just quickly record something on my phone and put that on the shorts feed and just see. And it was just about D&D. And yeah, it really blew up on TikTok immediately. And that's kind of, I was like, oh, okay, I've got to take this a bit more seriously. And then YouTube kind of followed. I was uploading to both. There was a while when I just kind of abandoned YouTube altogether. Just like 2 weeks in, I was like, they were getting like 13, 14 viewers. I was like, whatever, I'm just going to do TikTok. And then I kind of pulled it back onto the YouTube shorts, and that's when it picked up for some reason. So YouTube's a weird place, right? You never know when you're going to blow up. But yeah, that's kind of how I found my way into it. I knew I wanted to be a content creator because I love making videos. And then it was just a matter of finding something that I liked enough that I could enjoy talking about. And for me, that was D&D. And it still is. I still like chatting about it. And obviously, all the other stuff comes after that. Then you start making content for the game, because you're living and breathing the game constantly. You make content, and then, it snowballs. And that's kind of how it happened, really. Yeah, just kind of accident, pretty much.
I mean, it sounds like there was a little bit of serendipity with timing with shorts, but also, your background and your grind is obvious. You're on it. You take it as a profession. It is your, it's pretty obvious that it's your career. You're well informed, well researched, and then when you drop something, people want to watch it, which is, I guess, which is half of it. I'm wondering, like, with regard to YouTube, and look at the algorithm, and you look at long form content versus short form content, and how much do you attribute to your subscriber base coming through shorts and then being supported with your long form stuff? Or do you feel like it's like, what ratio of your subscriber base do you feel like is attributed to shorts, and then, you know, the long form stuff has kind of come along with it?
I think the initial spike is definitely from shorts. Like I had 100,000 subscribers pretty much to the day of my 6-month anniversary on the platform. And that's pretty much all shorts. Like I'd done a couple of long form videos by that point. And I think now I'm known as a half and half creator. And I think, although I might be wrong about this, I think I'm the only creator who is that. Most people on YouTube are one or the other. Like you've got like amazing channels. I mean, there really isn't a bad D&D YouTube channel of any notable size that I've ever seen. It's an incredible space, but you've got people like Ginny D, the Dungeon Dudes, D4 Deep Dive, right? Like XP to level 3. They're making like long form content. Even if they're quite short videos, sometimes they're long form content. They've got this huge success, like Joe Cat, Zbashu, all these people. And then you have like short speed creators like Steely Sam, Monkey DM, Offbeat Outlaw to some extent. I don't know if you know all these people, but
totally.
and they rarely do you find someone who sits on both. And I kind of feel like that's where D&D Shorts, the channel, it kind of has its niche, is that both sides have gone well. Because actually, I think it can be a negative if your audience is with you because they like your short form content. They probably don't care about your long form content because they're there for the shorts. And vice versa. And the way YouTube assesses whether a video is going to get promoted is it shows them to your core base, and if no one cares about it, they don't show it to anyone else. They just throw it out. So it's kind of hard, but I think the way D&D Shorts works is it's very much the same energy. I'm just basically shouting and have explosions on screen, and I just, you know, like stupid animations. It's just what I think is funny and engaging. And because they're kind of similar, my long videos are just a short stretched over 10 minutes. That kind of allowed it to exist in both at the same time. And these days, I think the subscribers still overwhelmingly come from shorts because shorts have a broader reach. But I think the support, like financially and also just support in the community, comes from people who watch the longer stuff because they have more of a relationship like with the channel, you know.
I agree with all of that.
I do too. I think from my perspective, could I throw something else out there that I think has contributed to your success? From my perspective, you're just so authentic and willing to state an opinion, whether it's unpopular or not. And I really saw it during the WotC that whole thing earlier on in the year. You stood forward and you made some comments that, in theory, if you were just thinking about your channel and thinking about, this is a D&D space, I wonder, like, is there going to be some consequences or some fallout from like talking out? And it didn't appear like that. If that voice was in your ear, you shut it down and you were just like, look, I need to say what I need to say. And it felt like at that moment there was also a level of like additional respect for your authenticity that has probably been, pretty contributive to your success.
I mean, maybe I don't actually know if the OGL thing did any real difference for the channel generally. I think people tend to assume it did because I was a big player in the debate. Like my voice was out there, but my voice was only out there because I was speaking with Wizards of the Coast, just not officially, right? Like their official PR department, I have absolutely no contact with at all. But like I have friends in the company, like I have friends who work there, so they kind of keep me abreast of what's going on. And so that the only reason like my voice was out there is because it was just their voice. It was just amplified through me, you know? So maybe, I mean, like, I will say regarding, like, is there kickback or did I worry about kickback? Like, I knew there would be. Like, the Wizards of the Coast host these, like, parties at conventions and stuff, and there's zero chance I will ever be invited to any of them, like, in any official capacity, because I think it's just way too painful for both sides. Like, if you worked at Wizards of the Coast, and if there's one thing that people who do bad things don't like, right, is getting called out on it. Like if you did something which is kind of shameful, right? Like you try and exploit your community, you try and tear away the livelihoods of thousands of people. You know, it was a horrible thing to attempt. you can kind of shield yourself behind the fact that, well, I'm just doing it for the company. Look, I'm employed.
Yeah.
But if your name is dragged into it personally and someone says, look, stop, you, and then they name you publicly and like, you need to stop it. I think that's actually a very frightening thing to happen to you, like terrifying. I don't think any of those corporate level bullies, people who bully the people beneath them, people who, do bad stuff in the walls of their own company, I don't think for a second they ever considered they'd ever face a public ramification for that. I think it caught them completely by surprise, and I'm sure it was horrible, like just miserable experience. Like I actually have tremendous sympathy for them as human beings, because I think that must have been so shocking and so frightening. And I know some of them had to take time off after the OGL. They had sick leave, because I'm certain it was traumatic, right? And you could say, look, well, they deserve it, fuck them, because they did bad things. But I think, yes, they did bad things, but I think that's like the most severe punishment you can have. But I think that's what happens when your eyes are bigger than their stomach. They really thought they could like gaslight the whole community and get away with it, and it failed. It blew back. But my involvement in that is just way too personal for them. I don't think there's ever going to be a relationship there. So, that kind of sucks though, right? Because I think in a vacuum, if I met a lot of people at Wizards of the Coast, we'd get along great. We're actually very similar. We both make D&D content, right? But it ain't happening. But luckily I have like put like on the tier below the people who you've heard of. There's wonderful people who I actually get to meet and chat to on occasion, and that's kind of the relationship I have to have with the company. So yeah, well, OGL definitely, there is no relationship there though anymore on an official level. I don't think there ever will be.
But dude, this is the thing as well, like Tom said, even just everything you just said there, everything from, I feel like what's an interesting space. I'm not sure if this is just a man thing or if this is like across the board, like just a public thing at the moment, but it feels like a lot of specifically male creators struggle to like express and communicate and look at things from multiple angles. And often I feel like, you listen to some things and often it's people like Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson or, Ben Shapiro or, or all these ridiculous people that are out there saying redonkulous things all the time, and I feel like just the way the fact that you're looking at like, man, I feel sorry for these people for having to go through the mental anguish of probably, to a degree, the ones that are public facing, that have Twitter accounts that say I work for WotC, getting hate messages like they've never experienced before in their lives, like feeling the pressure in ways, and, all the way through to the sad thing is most of the people that we could see from the outside are the low level people. We don't know, a lot 100%. Of the upper tier. So the low level people are getting it in the fucking ribs while the upper tier aren't. And so I think, dude, your perspective on it and whatnot is very refreshing, and I think it's something that very few people would kind of look at it as both sides of like, look guys, you fucked up, a big fuck up, and it was one from a disgusting standpoint, a vile kind of method of doing so, but in the same space, like there's still people who work here, and like these are people, they have families and kids,
exactly,
and hearts, emotions and all this kind of shit. And dude, like in an interesting way, Tom and I, like, when that whole thing went down, we really thought about, we were super bummed, obviously. We were working on our Kickstarter during that time, and we're super bummed to hear about everything happening because it was going to be for 5e. It was for 5e, and so it was one of those things that was very stressful. But in the same space, we wanted to, make sure that we could, move forward, and there would be no legal ramifications. So we started going back, sorting through our stuff and trying to like, see what we could align on our end. And I think, dude, that time when we needed people, when in a weird way, it's like I saw something the other day where people were getting mad at Brennan Lee Mulligan because he's not said anything about the Israel-Palestine stuff. And I'm like, I don't understand why we're getting mad at a YouTuber, a dungeon master online for not telling you his opinion, but because people like yourself are in the public eye and are, to a degree, whether we call it celebrity or not, you're someone of influence. And I think, your opinion, how you looked at it from multiple sides, how you kind of brought it all together, is one that's super valuable and one that is very refreshing. And as someone who is in the public eye, I respect you for stepping up, saying what you
Well,
said.
it's really
not
kind of
being
you to
afraid,
say, man.
you
Like
know?
it was a unprecedented time, right? Like for what it's worth, like I really did my best, but my best absolutely will not have been enough for some people. And that's kind of like, you know, you just have to try, right? And it was a frightening time. It was a confusing time. It's kind of, you look back on it now and stuff makes more sense because the pieces have come forward afterwards. But like at the time, it was like, yeah, it was not only just frightening but baffling, and we had no idea why it was happening. Like, who knew what? So yeah, I mean you're going back to the sad point. I mean, it's the irony, or I think it's a misconception that people who screw over other people are somehow better for it. Like you'd think that like this corporate, like, oh, they're doing it for the company, and all the fat cats are like smoking cigars and, you know, having a wonderful life at the expense of others. But ironically, in my experience, everyone loses when you treat people like shit, even the people who are treating other people like shit. And I think the OGL is a really good example of that, where everyone who suffered, who complained of abuse at the company, obviously they had a terrible time, still do, from what I hear. I'm not speaking for everyone, but, you know, it still goes on. But the people doing that, they're not coming from a happy place, you know? Like, you confident, happy, secure people don't treat other people that way. So it's kind of like everyone loses. And it kind of comes back to being a YouTuber. It's just wonderful thing about being an independent creator is like, I don't have anyone to have a go at me. Like I'm not fearful for my family's life, like safety, you know, like financial stability. I don't have to take abuse. Like if your boss comes in and treats you like shit one day, you know, can you leave? For a lot of people, no. So that's the best thing about being a creator, right? Is that you are in charge of your life, you know.
Dude, I love that, dude. It's that point. Yeah, dude. Fuck, dude. You're some serious shit, dude. You know, we're just in a whack time. You know, how many people, like you said, are stuck in fucking jobs because they just can't, you know, and they're dealing with shit people who have, you know, just bad attitudes. And, you know, it's a shame that kind of stuff is going on. But again, it's one of those reasons why, you know, people like yourselves, people like us, you know, are diving into, you know, the space to try and, you know, like you said, find a workplace where we can, you know, lead the rules. You know, people can receive, you know, good quality, you know, managing and, you know, be respected and all that kind of shit, dude. You know, like we said from the beginning with our team, you know, we wanted it to be very much a thing where it's always respect. You know, we accommodate work hours based on what's going on in people's lives. You know, we want to like be this more flexible entity that helps the people that work for us, not this place that is, you know, using bodies to get work done at a subpar, you know, whether it's money investment or, you know, whatever. You know, we give what we can as a very small company. You know, we try and give as much as we can, and, you know, it's fucking hard, dude. So no, a lot of what you just said makes a lot of sense. And do you know what actually leads me to a kind of question kind of about Ryoku's guide and everything, and just this Goliath that you fucking built. Like, what was your team for this? Like, how much would you say, you know, there's 350 pages of kaiju battle stuff. There's, you know, there's 5 legendary kaiju monsters. There's 50 plus yokai inspired creatures, elemental bender classes, 12 subclasses. You know, there's all these different things. How much did you like write, and how much was your, like, what was your team? What did it look like behind the scenes for all this? Like, what was the numbers of people that put their time into this, man?
So if you go on the Kickstarter page, you scroll down. I think it is towards the yes. There's a bit called the team, and you can see most of the people who were involved in it, at least up until the point of release. So I guess to take your, like, in order, I wrote pretty much everything in the book, in the sense that, like, I had a hand in the design side of things. So anything that's like mechanically designed, so like stat block abilities, like, you know, like we, like, you know, so Tori is one of our consultants and writers, and Daijirong he, I call her Tori because that's her Discord name. And so she will write the lore for the Dodomeki. You know, it's essentially, she is, and so is Yoshinoi Frank. These people are essentially historians. They are just fountains of knowledge about their own culture and history, and you know, and they have a very personal experience with the area that we're drawing inspiration from. So they will write all the lore, and then it kind of becomes my job to look at this and talk to them and say, like, okay, how do I communicate this creature into 5e? And that's where I kind of, that's the bulk of my stuff. So all the kaiju fighting mechanics, the subclasses, with the exception of the Element Bender, who I worked on with Max from Loot Tavern, had a huge hand in that one, which is obviously draws a lot of inspiration from Avatar and stuff, as well as you know, the consultants really have to say on everything, of course, as well. Like, they make sure that what we're doing is authentic, because not only would it just be kind of wrong to like go into a culture you don't understand and just tear out stuff and see what works for you, it would also just be worse. It's a much better product when it's inspiring and it's something new that people haven't seen before. And then you have, so that's the kind of creative team, and the art direction is a huge part. That's Mo, who does all the art direction. And that's like a huge job in such, I mean, you can probably see the art, but this is a beautiful book. It's one of my favorite things about working on this, is working with so many great artists. And then there's all the artists themselves. And then
how many artists do you have?
I couldn't tell you the exact number, but like there are a few artists that have contributed a lot to the book. There is, let me just I'm gonna flick through the numbers now. So there's obviously there's Sinlair, who did a lot of the stuff. He did the like designs for the deluxe covers and things like that. There's Ongjin, who did loads of stuff. You can find all these people on Instagram. There's Fandat as well, who did loads of great stuff. So we probably have like a core 4 or 5, and then a lot of people we bring on for specialist areas. You know, like we have a calligrapher, like an artist specifically for the calligraphy from Japan that Yo found, for example. And I think the really unsung heroes of projects like this, though, are the people who, they don't contribute directly to the, well, they are contributing to the book, but they're not people who are like creating for the book. They're people who, the proofreaders and the people who do the community outreach. And there's like 3 or 4 people who kind of do that, and they are just incredible. And you can see Kickstarters who don't have such a great community support team, they just fall apart, because we're dealing with like 30,000 people who all have questions, who have all taken a chance. They've all supported an independent creator. And you know, like, I mean, I still think $30 is a huge amount of money for a D&D book. No one needs a D&D book. If you're dropping $30 on it, you deserve to have every question. Like, you know, you deserve that support. So the community of people who do that are god tier, like literally could not function without them. And then like video editors, voice actors, you know, I think there must be like 30 people in the team just for this one book, if you're counting everybody.
Incredible, dude.
How many of those are, would you say, are like internal core D&D, whatever your entity is, DnDShorts, like, you know, day-to-day team? Yeah,
so Loot Tavern have published books before, and I'm publishing this one with them. So they're handling most of the fulfillment and backer kit side of things. And they have like a core team, but I couldn't tell you how many people are in that. But a lot of those people are working on Ryoko's too. In terms of me, like I didn't bring anyone with me as such.
Okay.
But a lot of people are just like consultants. They're always paid by the hour. Like you don't have a consultant on full time, or maybe unless you were publishing like a book every month, you know. And even then, you need to get consultant specific. So we're doing prostheses, right? So we have you know, like Sekiro inspired prostheses. And of course, when you're dealing with anything like a prosthetic, you need someone who is an expert on disability representation and the correct language, and making sure that, you know, you make something in a way that's inclusive and that's not just, that doesn't make sense. So you need to find an expert on that. And we found someone who works at Paizo. We found Rue, who actually works for Paizo, who is a disability consultant as well. So that's kind of how you have to do it. So that's why the team kind of builds out. Generally, the broader you go, the more people you have to get on to make sure you're doing it the right way, you know?
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's so super interesting. Like, in just from a, because we just did our Kickstarter as well, and to different degrees, we have a core team that are on payroll for us. We also have, to different degrees, we have partners that are partnering with us because we have had reciprocal support with each other in the community. We then have taken it to a further step of like actual like a business partnership of like, look, this is the deal. We have this Kickstarter, you could contribute this way, and this is what you can get out of it, whether it's upfront, kind of like a consultant cost to artists or to, writing partners or that type of thing. And then we have like back end deals as well with people, which is like you can contribute this amount or this aspect of support of advertising or promo, whatever, and you get a back end cut of the deal. Were you doing similar aspects of all of that as well, or were you just kind of like upfront paying everyone up front and then on the back end reaping the rewards for it?
Pretty much paying everyone up front, with the exception of people whose work are ongoing, like they get paid like every month. And I don't know when this is going live, but I'm sure they know it's coming anyway. But like there's obviously like a pretty sizable bonus coming out to everyone before Christmas, which is really fun.
Nice.
As well.
But yeah, we can hold this till till it's the right time if you'd like.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it should be like, it really should be sort of like by Friday they'll
Cool.
have that,
Cool.
Which is a really exciting moment, and the project did well, so people are getting a lot. I suppose, yeah, I mean, with regard to creators, almost all of them I paid up front, or I paid during the run. Because that's obviously a huge part too. I didn't even mention the creator support, but like the community support. Like when I message someone like Dungeon Dad, I'm like, hey, can you do an extra video because the project's going quite well, so we got a bit more money. The willingness to just be like, hell yeah, bro, let's do it. XP level 3, Dungeon Dad, just so many creators. I'm like Man Shorts, like everybody pretty much who could. Pointy Hat did amazing stuff for the projects as well. But yeah, you got to pay all those people up front. That's kind of the biggest gateway these days to a Kickstarter, actually. Is back in 2019 when Matt Colville did his first one. I don't think anyone had any idea of how big D&D Kickstarters could be. So, like there wasn't this expectation that you would need, 6 figures before you even make anything. Like to make a real like huge Kickstarter, you kind of need to be pumping that much money in before you even start, or at least that's how I feel about it, because I want to deliver it quickly, which means you kind of need to have it mostly done before you even start. Otherwise, if you don't have much and then you get that much support and then you're like, oh my god, I've got to make a whole book and deliver all these stretch goals, that's when you have Kickstarters taking like 3 or 4 years to deliver, which the community can be very understanding, but I think really what I wanted to deliver as quickly as possible. Which is, I think it goes out in April is when the final PDF is in people's metaphorical hands.
We noticed that as well. Like it looked like during the Kickstarter, I'm not sure if it was directly aligned with the Kickstarter, but it seemed like the timelines were concurrent with your promo video of having all the shit in front of you and being like, okay, here's this and here's this, here's the cards, here's the dice, here's the book, here's the other book, here's the box set, all this stuff. So you had like demos of that, like prototypes of all that stuff to lead into it, or had you actually gone through your print runs and all that?
No, those were prototypes. Okay. So they are not. I could go find them, but I'm not sure where they are. They're downstairs there. But if you open them up, it's like half a book and then half blank pages. Well, actually, it's half a book and then half a book repeated. So you can open it up, but like when you get to there's areas of the book that were like blocked out for where stretch goals might go. So obviously those, it's just repeated. It's all the races and subclasses repeated again. Just to kind of show that we were serious, right? That like the book was not only like going to be real, but it was like mostly done. It was like the Ryoko's core book was 90% done. And the Wrath of the Kaiju was 20% done because it was only written one adventure, but all of the legwork was done. I think that was I think that video like was quite good. It just kind of showed that it was real to people, because it can feel a little unbelievable if you're promising. I mean, I think in total Ryoko's will be about like maybe 700, maybe 750 pages of content. that's a lot to, you know, to be like, hey, you know, like people are gonna be like, really, you know. So I think actually having it to show people and show that the cards look great and show that the dice look great in real life was, yeah, it was kind of useful.
We were of the same notion with our Kickstarter. Like we had seen Kickstarters that, you know, would take
Years.
upwards of a year or more just to get the, you know, the PDF, and then you got to do the print run and all this other, you know, all this stuff. And we were, you know, there's this
Like
this
monkeys in the trenches right now, as far as I understand it, with what's going on with his Kickstarter. The
Yeah.
Monkey Gems, like,
Oh, really? With Steinhardt's, is it just taking longer than he thought?
yeah. As far as I understand, I didn't actually back the project just because I don't often do much Eldritch stuff. But from a friend of mine who's backed it, he's like, man, shit's taken a while, and he's like, it's you know, it's becoming a bit of a thing. And so, you know, I think
this instant gratification.
yeah,
thing
the
was
instant
some-
gratification thing's a big one.
I think that's it. I mean, I got to say, Monkey DM is a wonderful guy. Like I've met him, I've chatted to him.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. But
Incredible.
doesn't matter. Like his Kickstarter was the biggest of all time at the time. It was in fact it held it for over a year. Ryoko's was what beat that. That would have blindsided him. And what people, I think people kind of like want it both ways, is like they look at Wizards of the Coast books who are kind of pumped out like 3 or 4 a year, but at least I don't feel that they're worth the money. I think that they're released now even with mistakes in them, you know. Like they're having day one erratas, you know, and stuff like that. And it's like or there's these like incredible value, beautifully made, passionately made Kickstarters, but yeah, they take a long time. And no matter how confident you are in a project, I don't know anyone outside of maybe Critical Role or Dimension 20 who could just drop $1.5 million on a Kickstarter, like on a project before the Kickstarter, so they can say, buy it, and then here it is tomorrow. You know, like it just can't be done. And I think that's kind of a just what people need to understand. And we do all we can to alleviate that by making the process as quick as possible. But it's with a community-driven project, it's always going to be slower than like a huge business who are just, you know, they make it and they release it and you get what you get.
And to them, it doesn't matter how much stock they get. They're like, well, you know, we'll take it in, and then whatever we have to give out, we'll give out for the Kickstarter. The rest we'll just put on shelves for
exactly.
To go
It'll just go over time. Yeah.
You know, and it's a bit different, you know, when, you know, I know for us, you know, we're in a place where, you know, we're needing to be careful about, you know, what we order in, what we do, you know, because we're a very small business, you know, and so it's one of those things that, you know, yeah, you're considering, you're weighing up, you're looking at, you know, how much can we, let's wait and see what the Kickstarter numbers are, you know, let's, you know, and all that kind of stuff is happening.
I mean, you could have time, you know? Yeah, you could have a quote unquote a successful Kickstarter that could take you under. I mean, if you don't do it, if you don't look at the numbers,
100%, you see it happen. You totally see it happen. And yeah, I mean that it's just like I say, people look at Kickstarter sort of like a shop where you go on and you buy a book, but like really you are backing a book that is yet to be made, you know. So I mean, but like my opinion is always get it out as quickly as possible, because I would rather work 2 years for nothing and then release a Kickstarter and release it the year after than do a Kickstarter and work for 3 years and then release it. I think that's just inherently more risky the second way, right? So but you know, that comes off the back of taking advice from people who have done it the hard way, you know, who have learned. This is kind of uncharted territory. It was not a thing 5 years ago. It's like it's very new. People are learning. And the D&D community are pretty understanding. As long as they get a great book at the end of it, I think people are pretty happy. But at least for Ryoko's, we're like very fierce about getting this out on time and at a very tight schedule. So the alpha comes out, or the beta test comes out December. We collect all the playtest feedback, we make the changes, people get it April, and it goes straight to the printers. And then people are getting even with the biggest packages, they're getting them by next February. So yeah. But yeah, it's tough. Yeah,
dude, it's fucking awesome. You know, I respect the hustle, dude. I respect the hustle.
How long, just to get a perspective of the pre-preparation, the pre-writing, all of the stuff that went into the project? When did this whole?
I think.
By the way, like your reach out into the Asian community is super interesting as well. Like how the groundwork that you put out there to make sure you had the right people, you know, to be culturally sensitive but to also just have badass artists, you know, all the different players in the game must have been a journey in itself. But how far back did you go? But when you started this?
Yes, I mean, I guess the initial concept started like taking shape around January 2022, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of when I had the giant fighting rules, right? Like ideas for how to fight giant creatures. Like, and Ryoko's took so many shapes before it really got going. And originally I wanted to do it as kind of like just a series of kind of giant fights, and we'd like have a redesigned Tarask, and then we'd have like a creature of every monster type at CR30. So it would be like, you'd have like a CR30 ooze, a CR30 plant, a CR30 fiend, you know, and each one would have its own kind of cool mechanics, and it would be like the definitive version. Because I think when you actually look at D&D, there's not many high CR creatures other than dragons, some fiends, and like monstrosities. So that was kind of the concept. But when it really started kicking off, as you pointed out, was when Yoshi and Frank kind of came in. We had a consultant, Nala Wu, who kind of came in, really helped us give it shape. Obviously, Fandat is Vietnamese, and Sinlair is Indonesian. You know, people who are bringing their own visual language to the book, you know, through the art. And that was, we felt that was a place that was unexplored. We want to do something different from D&D, which has done the like medieval European fantasy so many times. But and also stuff that we love, right? Like content we love is like adjacent to that world. So then you go and find people like Yoshin or Frank worked on Pokemon and like Naruto and Death Note, right? And these are shows that I've seen. Like it's actually wild that I get to I could hop on Discord right now and chat to him. It's nutty. So you find the people for the job, right? And then you give them the space to take it and shape it, right? I think that's the mistake some people make, is they hire consultants, but then they ignore them. Or they hire consultants, and then the second they say something that sounds like more work, or they don't want to do it, they're just like, nah. And it's like, then you're literally just burning money at that point. Like, why hire them? You've got to hire them and listen to them. But yeah, I think for Ryoko's, it's a much richer, deeper book as a result. But yeah, I think, so it took about 18 months before the Kickstarter of prep.
Damn.
So 18 months just to lead up to it.
That's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah,
Like
with
the amount of content, I know there's still, you know, aspects of you building stuff into it, but still, like the sheer volume of stuff, whether it's the cards or the books or like, you know, the artwork for, you know, DM screens, like all of it, the dice, the style of the dice, that, you know, all of that is, we know what amounts of work go into creating that stuff, and it's still pretty damn impressive. You must have been full tilt for a while, and also just doing your D&D short stuff. It must have been relentless for a while for you.
I publish a magazine every month as well, full of D&D content. I think
just as a little side,
as a side on Patreon, I got a magazine every month. It was definitely, to be honest, I think it's actually impossible. Like the channel has suffered, definitely. Right, like I hope people haven't noticed, like front of house. Hopefully people, but like there's definitely, I've uploaded less. I've stretched concepts further than I think. You know, like eventually something has to give. And what I'm really passionate about, I'm all in on Ryoko's, and I like Ryoko's was my life. I say I'm starting to get a bit more life back now, but like it was my life for 18 months. But actually, where my heart really lies is in video creation. It is in YouTube. So. I don't think it's possible you can't fully send two separate projects, right? You have to have an A and a B, really. So yeah, man, it was hard. It's crazy work. But I mean, like it does pay off, and it's true what they say, like if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And it is kind of true. Like if you see the biggest YouTubers, like if you ever watch like a Mr. Beast interview or something, like he never shuts up about YouTube. Like literally, it's all he's thinking about. Like in his off time, it's like every second of every day is devoted to YouTube for the last like 10 years of his life. If anyone does that with any hobby or any pursuit, they're going to become the king of it, right? And I think for a while that was me with Ryoko's. Like every second of every day was just like, okay, what do we do? Like coming up with feats. I mean, like just so much stuff is in it. Like we got like 75 feats or something, you know, on top of everything else, and every one of them has got to be different to every feat that's ever been made before. So yeah, But yeah, I mean, shit, like it's hard work. I don't know what to say, but it's fun. It's fun, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I'll take it every day over, you know, like working in an office, which I would hate, I think. So
Yeah, dude. Dude.
We talk about it often.
Dude, yeah, for sure, dude. I feel that for sure. And you know, it's inspiring to see, you know, how, you know, how much effort and time you put into this, as well as also, you know, just the results on the back end and everything. So, you know, I hope, you know, from the outside, dude, we just, you know, have appreciated seeing it work for someone, dude, and being so, you know, just thankful to know that, you know, there's people out there who also get the same grind and who are, you know, putting everything into it, and, you know, bringing their passion into it as much as you are, dude. Because, you know, I'll be honest, I didn't find Ryoko's until like a while later. I wasn't like, I just, honestly, I'm in such a little bubble of just like do what I need to do, and like I don't really live outside of that bubble. And you know, in terms of like, you know, absorbing, like I don't read the news, I don't do that kind of stuff, because I'm just, I can't distract my mind from all that shit, because it just gets too wild sometimes. But seeing what you've created, dude, like I'm blown away. Like I'm stunned at the level of depth that you've put into this, and the energy and stuff. And you know, as a fellow creator, like you said, that's one of one of my favorite things you said is X amount of feats, and they each have to be different from every feat that's ever been created, as well as all the feats that you're creating at this time as well, dude. Like that's such a real fucking thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
you don't wanna be like, we like, you know when you make a feat, you think this is really cool, and someone's like, oh, it's just like the like the feat, like some nothing feat you've never heard of from like a D&D book 10 years ago, and it's like, oh, you know, like it happens, man. I will say though that like every success is built on, you're building on the shoulders of giants, right? Ryoko's cannot happen without Matt Colville's stuff. It can't. Because I would never even have thought that it could happen. I would never have even dared try. And I'm sure Matt Colville will have people he thanks, you know. I've never met the guy, but like I'm sure he'll say the same. Like, and I'm sure he would agree that like every success, it's not, I might be the most like visual person as part of Ryoko's or like D&D Kickstarters right now, just because the channel's kind of large, but it's only doable because of the entire team. It's like, it's a group thing, you know. It's absolutely not like the D&D Shorts show featuring Loot Tavern, not at all. It's like everybody, and people in my personal life as well, like the support from my flatmates and stuff, who have to put up with like pretty much just like a baby. I was like a baby, like they were feeding me, like cleaning my dishes and stuff. Like it was literally like I was a baby for a year and a half. Like I could not have existed. They're like dragging me out for walks, and you know, making sure that I eat healthy, so I'm not just take out every single time. You know, like you can't do it without that level of support. So it really is. I'm just like the luckiest cog in the machine, right? Like I just kind of was here at the time, and everyone else kind of like piled on and pushed you up, and you're like, oh crap, thanks guys. It came out really well.
Let me ask you a question, dude. Like in amongst all this shit, because you know, like look, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning. This all stems from you know, making videos, knowing how to make videos, thinking, you know, what could I make videos about? And you go like, oh, well, I like Dungeons and Dragons, so I'll make.
We're gonna ask, when does he get a chance?
I was about to. I was like, do you ever fucking play D&D at this point? Do you have a regular campaign? Are you like GMing? Are you playing in anything? Are you running
I DM
campaign?
I DM 3 games a week. 3 games a month. Sorry, Jesus, 3 games a week. Imagine. Yeah, 3 games a month for patrons, and that's the main way I play now, because I love that community, because the downside of being even if you get past like 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, it loses a personal edge. You cannot have a personal relationship with a community of that size. It's literally impossible. Whereas like on Patreon, it's limited to like a very small group of people who we play with every month. And that's really cool. And that's the main way I play the game. The rest of the games I get now are more like one-shots with friends, or we're playtesting Ryoko's stuff.
Yeah. So let me ask you, with the Patreon stuff, obviously, you know, I imagine it's still a lot of people. How are you running a game with X amount of people, or is it just a table of like 8 people, or like, you know?
I don't go above 6. 6 people, like ideally 5 plus me. But sometimes it's 6, and then I think they've got about like 20 people, and I say, hey, we're running games this day, and this day, this month. Hit me up with whatever day you can do. and then people do, and then it usually works. A lot of people will say I can do any day, and I'll say, okay, just hold on, we'll see which day is most free. Once people have said I can only do this Saturday, and then you just kind of split it up, and then we do a one shot that month, and then and then it's like that every month. It's just basically a series of rolling one shots where we try kooky stuff and have a good time. Just very, very relaxed, very chill games.
So with all the work, what percentage is improv and what percentage is prep?
I would say it's probably like 50-50. I get the maps and the plot mapped out. And then what usually happens is in the first, whoever gets the first session of the month is kind of like they're like the guinea pigs. Like I usually will just make up a voice on the spot for a character.
Yeah.
I will make up jokes as we go along, and then people will interact with the world, and as it should be, players will world build as they go along. And then if someone does something really cool or has a really funny interaction, I'll remember it and I'll take it for the next session, and then the session after that. You know what I mean? So it kind of builds as it goes through. Even though people are running the same adventure.
So that's super interesting. So you do the same adventure on each 3 ones, with different characters coming in. Are any of them like, obviously because I imagine the tables are changing fairly regularly. Are any of them like week to like? Is it like, you know, a police department and you've got different cops on duty, you know, kind of thing,
Yeah,
and there's like an
totally,
overarching story kind of going on?
There's definitely people who bring back characters from adventure to adventure, but we skip around in levels. I try and give people what I think most people enjoy about those adventures, apart from just the fun community aspect, because it's a good time, is you get to test builds. It's a one shot, and I'll say this one's level 3, this one's level 8, this one's level 13, you know, and then you can kind of, I've always wanted to do a level 13 like sorcerer paladin, when you can have all the levels to make it work. So I think that's essentially what we do. Some people bring back the same character, just leveled at different points. Other people just make a totally new character every single time. And every time they're thrown in with other different characters. But sometimes people, you know, we've made friends with each other. Sometimes they'll coordinate the days and they'll bring a 2-person combo that they know they're going to do. But yeah, that's totally how it goes. It's a very like relaxed, almost like a West March kind of vibe, but we do it live.
That's freaking awesome, dude. I absolutely love that, and it sounds like something that's really great. We've been working out stuff for our Discord server. We wanted to do
the West March thing.
We looked at the West March thing and just doing community led D&D stuff, because, you know, for us, dude, you know, insight into us, you know, we're working on, you know, Kickstarters and books and all that kind of shit, but we have a video kind of sect as well, and we've been doing an actual play for a while. We've done a couple of other smaller little like actual play series as well. We throw this podcast in there here and there as well to make connections and meet people, and you know get people's names out there, as well as also, you know, giving people a platform to talk about the shit they do, because I don't imagine you're often talking about the behind the scenes of some of the stuff you do very often in your shorts and stuff. So, you know, we've kind of created this area, and you know, something we've been looking at is, you know, how to do a more unique like actual play series, and something that would be different, whether that's, you know, a lot of people that could be, you know, you see there's, I don't know what the group's called, but they do a show with puppets where they recreate shorts with puppets using D&D.
Those guys are really, are they like Stinky Dragon game?
Yes,
like that?
yes,
it's exactly. Those are really good, man. They kick ass. Such a good idea to do it with puppets, because animation is so annoying. It takes ages. It's really expensive. Doing it with puppets, genius. I love that. They deserve every success. It just goes to show you just need one good idea. People would say you cannot make a Let's Play anymore. Critical Role have monopolized it. Like, you know, like, or Dimension 20. Why would anyone watch yours when no one's got time to watch theirs? It just takes one good idea. Puppets. That was the whole idea. Bam. They're up there, like getting crazy views, probably loads of money, having a wonderful time. So inspiring. So exciting.
That's exactly the thing. Like, it's finding that beat, and whether it's, you know, what I would say some sort of visual gimmick or storytelling gimmick, or, you know, whatever your piece is, that idea, that nugget, you know, that's what you're trying to find. And I think, you know, we're going through that at the moment of trying to find something that's really gonna fucking hit, and something that, you know, feels, you know, because also the other thing I think that is a problem for us, at least, and something that I experienced, I'm not sure if you've experienced this throughout your video creation career, is finding something that feels you know, like you're doing it because you love it, as well as also because you're trying something that you hope will get views and things like that as well. You know, something that is, you know,
Not too gimmicky.
yeah, exactly. Not too gimmicky, but you know, something. So, you know, telling a story in a lot of cases, for me, I feel like with D&D, I don't often want to record something if I don't feel like it's a story that needs to be told. Like, unless there feels like there's something powerful to the story and something that's, you know, going to be interesting for people to watch, it's hard for me to then sit in the seat and, you know, fully give myself to it, because there's, you know, there's a level of like, I'm doing this just because we had a kind of goofy idea about, oh, why don't we combine this and this and see how that turns out? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to being like, yo, I've got an amazing idea that would have awesome characters set in this beautiful place. What's the weird way that we tell this story, you know? And I think that's been an interesting space for me to kind of work out as the GM and kind of running the video side of shit. Have you experienced any of that?
I think there is the problem with content creation, right? Is if you want to make a living, you instead of it goes from doing something that you care about. If you want to make a living, there is suddenly this imperative that other people need to care about what you do, which is not the point of being a creator. Like the creative work, the joy of it is it's good for you. You know, and like, it doesn't matter if you enjoy playing the piano and you suck, who cares? But if you want to make a living playing the piano, you have to suddenly cater to what other people want. And that's true on YouTube. If you want to like talk about D&D, you have to suddenly and make a living off it. You can do it, and that's great. But if you want to make a living off it, you want to make money, you have to find a way to do it and convince other people to care and to listen to you. And that's a whole different ball game. Yeah. And what I will say, I've been thinking about this a lot more recently post Ryoko's, because that was like my passion. Like, that was the whole scheme, was like, do a Kickstarter. Okay, dream achieved, you know? Looking back at my channel, I think pretty much to the day the channel stopped exploding and started just kind of it still grows very nicely. I'm not like, you know, I'm really happy with it. I'm so grateful. But like, you can see an analytical difference between when you go through a period of innovation and when you go through a period of, okay, this is what the videos are. Instantly, you stop growing nearly as fast. But the bigger you get, the more frightening it is to take a risk, because suddenly you've got a lot of people counting on you. If you're hiring editors and you've got a sponsor who's given you thousands of dollars to promote their like candy bar or something, and you know, can you imagine if a sponsor came and they're like, oh, we'll give you $2,000 to eat this candy bar on screen, and you're like, okay, great, I'm going to put it in this video, I'm trying something new, and that video gets 2,000 views, they're going to be pretty annoyed because they're paying you for the exposure that you're bringing theoretically, right? So it gets harder and harder to take risks the bigger you are. But I think the second you don't take a risk, that's when you stop really growing and you're just kind of coasting from that point on. So yeah, I feel tremendously for creators in that spot, especially people who are stuck in the middle. I think that's the hardest place to be, is in the middle, where you're making enough to survive, but you're not, but your ambition is higher. But you're worried that, oh, if I change something and it goes down even a little bit, I can't afford to take the risk, because then I don't eat for a month, right? Yeah. And that's really, you know, how do you take a risk in that situation? You're kind of trapped. You can't take a risk because you'll lose it. But if you don't take any risks, you're never going to keep growing.
And we've actually seen it as well, you know, where someone has, there was a D&D channel that I think they were doing like, maybe they were doing something else and they moved to food or something like that, DnD Food. I forget what it was, but it was like some sort of like tangential step sideways, and it did not work. And then they literally had like a mea culpa video of like, guys, we fucked up. Like, we literally like wanted to grow, wanted to do this. We thought this would be fun, but we realized you don't want to see it. And we are going to go back to doing our other shit. And hopefully you'll still watch that. But like, it was like right in front, like they were pretty transparent about it, but it was exactly what you're talking about. They tried to shake it up a little bit, didn't work, freaked out, consolidated, and who knows now? Like, you know, once you're kind of in that consolidated space, you've kind of put a little bit of a glass ceiling on yourself as well. So that's tricky. It's got to be tricky.
Yeah, and it's also a matter of like, D&D is a niche game. Like, with the exception of Critical Role, and even Critical Role, like this is going to sound crazy, but like in the general scheme of YouTube, Critical Role aren't that big. They're big. People know who they are. They were very big on Twitch, but like compared to like an actual big YouTuber, they're tiny. You know, and it's like there is a limit because we're kind of confined to the D&D, you know, square. If you're never going to step outside D&D, like, so at some point you just got to be like, look, this is what I care about, and it's never going to get the same views. If I was as passionate about D&D, like I would like Fortnite as I am about D&D, or if we all were, we'd all be a hell of a lot richer, like 10 times richer, because the audience is 100 times as strong. You know, I look with envy, like sometimes at like people who make Pokemon videos, people who make Yu-Gi-Oh videos, because I'm like, damn, can you imagine if D&D was that big? You'd be unstoppable, right? Like you'd just keep growing forever. But eventually you are going to hit a wall by limiting yourself to one game. So you just kind of have to accept that at some point. Like you can't grow forever, and obsessing over always being bigger can maybe make you not appreciate that it's incredible if 1,000 people watch a video. That's 1,000 human beings whose lives you're touching, who, like, you know, with all the other content on the web, you know, you're one click away from Netflix, you're one click away from porn, and I'm competing with that. You know what I mean? I'm competing with that. Like, it's like, yeah, it's crazy. But you know, if anyone gives you any time at all, it's a blessing. So you know, it can be easy to be like, I wish I was, you know, the biggest ever, but it can make you sort of forget what you have, and what we have. To have any voice at all is kind of an incredible thing.
Totally, dude, fully agree with you, dude. That's dude, you speak the wise shit, good sir. You speak the wise shit. It's been great talking to you, man, about all this kind of stuff. You're exceedingly, like I said, just very genuine. And you know, I appreciate the way you go about thinking about shit. It's refreshing.
It's awesome just to hang out, man. For real, like, yeah, it's been lovely.
Dude, we actually want to just quickly transition to something new. Talk about innovation. Fucking hell, here we are. So innovation. We are trying to cultivate more of a community in our Discord server. We're really trying to build it into a place of a safe, inclusive, you know, space for TTRPG fans, creators, everyone alike, you know, to come and hang out and enjoy themselves. And we put out earlier today whether people wanted to ask any questions to you, if they had anything that they would like to ask you.
Awesome.
We had a couple people come back with some stuff. We kind of went back and forth, and then it got lost in the chats, because that's how Discord goes. You know, people
you can never keep track of it. Yeah,
exactly. But we have two really great questions here that we wanted to put to you. So one of them is from DMG in our Discord server, and he said, what is a good way to get into professional creative writing? Because, you know, he's wanting to, he mentioned in another comment that he's wanting to, you know, start writing professionally, and he wanted to know a good stepping stone of how to possibly do that. In your opinion, he said also if we wanted to answer as well, but go give us your thoughts first, and we'll
I can kind of give you two answers. This is like a very common question. I can give you two answers. One is a professional creative writer, and one is someone who hires professional creative writers now. I'll start with the second one because that's easier. Is like, and this is to put it very bluntly, you really need to be good. Like, writing is one of those things where a bad writer just it can't happen. Like I've reviewed material from many like wonderful people who have like degrees in writing who actually can't write. Like, to put it bluntly, like it's not good enough. And you need to be able to articulate the in an interesting way. You want people to read your writing and feel something. And often people's writing portfolios are stuff like they're you know, like young adult fiction. I've read so much amateur young adult fiction from people who are looking for writing gigs, and it's like, if that's what you're passionate about, that's awesome, but that will never get you a job, I don't think, unless it's spectacular. You're much better writing if you're applying for work in like a D&D space, you're much better writing like 2 paragraphs of lore for a fictional D&D race or something. If that lore was really good, that's the kind of thing that would get me like sitting up and be like, okay, let's give this person, well, you know, let's hire this person. This is awesome. So as for how to be a good writer is really, the trick is to read more. The amount of writers I know who don't read enough, or amateur writers who don't read enough, like if it's kind of like trying to be a musician but never listening to music. You know, you want to be reading at least 3 or 4 times as much as you're writing, right? Like if you're deadly serious, I want to be a writer. I think you need to be devoting like 3 or 4 hours a day maybe to reading, and reading the best stuff. There's a great book called The Elements of Style. If you pick up the 4th edition, I think it's the 4th edition. Yeah, do you know that book? You know it.
Gray. Yeah.
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 That's
I have it on my shelf.
Yeah, yeah. Every professional writer I know pretty much has a copy of that book. I had it at university. You know, have that on hand and read it back to front. And that's got some amazing passages from other works that you can read in there. And just when you can see what really good writing is, then you can start kind of trying to work out what it means to you. And I think a big part of that is if a writer, if someone asked you, okay, what's the best written book you've ever read? And if you can't answer like that, like I think Norman Mailer's like a spectacular writer, right? Or if someone's like, what's the best sort of love letter you've ever read? And if you can't answer that question, then you probably aren't ready to seriously be a writer. Like you have to kind of know that stuff, I think anyway. You have to read a lot and love reading to then write. I think that's step 1, is be really good. And then step 2 is to start writing yourself. Like do it for yourself. Start making projects and go about it any way you can to get the attention. So go on like the Reddit. There's a Reddit called like writing prompts or something. I don't know if that's still as big as it once was, but back in like a long time ago, that was like the place to get discovered. And just put work anywhere. And the way most people in the industry operate is most people don't like taking chances on other people. Most people are going to really want to work with you if you're bigger than them, or you can offer something they can't do. So it was quite easy for me to do a Kickstarter because DnDShorts was a big channel. So people were like wanting to work with DnDShorts. Whereas if I was like a nobody, it would be a lot harder to, and that doesn't mean you're any better. Just because you've got an audience doesn't mean you're better than someone without one. It just means that people who take a chance on you, they're more confident they're going to get some kind of response. So I think the trick is just to start putting it out there and get really good. And and whatever it takes to do that, whether it means taking a course, whether it means reading more, whether it means devoting more time to it. A lot of people, and also this is a huge thing, working out if you really want to be a writer. I know that sounds like such a stupid thing, but do you want to be a writer, or do you imagine what it would be like to be a famous author and think that would be cool? Because those are completely different questions. If you're like, man, it would be cool to be Stephen King, it's like, yeah, it would be cool to be a billionaire, world famous author. That would be sick. I don't think anyone would disagree. But if instead you said, do you want to spend like 7 hours a day writing? A lot of people would be like, no, that sounds awful. So working out if you really want to do it, and then it is a huge part of the question. But yeah, I say that's how I would approach it: is get really good, and then get your voice out there any way you can, and that means writing for everything. Newspapers, like, oh, I've just gone so white, but yeah, newspapers, Reddit stories, making your own YouTube channel, writing for online article places, everything like that.
Yeah, it's a great shout.
It's a great shout for DMG.
All of that is great advice, and hope that helps them out. Second one. We have a great question. This one is, and you mentioned a little bit about this in the writing and a little bit earlier. What is some advice? And this is from Drake saying, what's some advice when creating homebrew races in terms of like balancing and getting it right? They mentioned that subclasses are a little bit easier to balance because you can look at other examples where you have levels where they should be getting things and things like that. What's some advice you could give for helping someone create homebrew races?
There is a really good resource. I can't remember what it's called, but if I think I can probably find it even while we talk.
Go for it.
There's like, it's called Detect Balance, 5e homebrew race guide.
Mm.
And basically you can give, it's not perfect. I actually don't agree. This is the thing, you'll never find like people who agree on everything, but it's called the Text Balance, a 5e homebrew race guide. And basically what it does is it gives you a long list of traits, and it assigns them a point value.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say, okay, look at all these point values, and if you add them all together, how many points have you assigned your new race? And if it's around 27, that's perfect.
Cool.
And basically that's what it's and like that's a really good way of balancing when you're not sure.
Yeah.
The best way to do it is a combination of that to make sure it's not like utterly broken, and a lot of it's just intuition. I know that's such a useless answer, right? But if you're doing something that's truly never been done before, like the Kitsune race we made is obviously inspired by, I mean, Kitsune just means fox, but in Japan it's like they're associated with shape-shifting, right? So the Kitsune can shapeshift from a sort of humanoid form into a fox form, and that's never been done before. So you kind of have to approach it like, is this broken? How exciting is this? And you find ways to make it work. But in terms of like just a very actionable, useful information, the Text Balance, a 5e homebrew race guide, is really useful.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a super sick answer, and something part tangible, part not tangible, which I love. We love those answers.
Yeah, it's the best I can
those
do.
are the best.
I just to jump on it, sorry, I know I'm rambling here. I will add
please
that it's much better to make a race that's exciting and overpowered than to make something boring, because you can make something that's overpowered less powerful when playtesting it. I think a lot of people probably, they imagine what it's like to write a D&D book, and they think you're just writing stuff down and then shipping it, and that's not how it goes. You play stuff. So I'd say go crazy, go mental, like have a great time, make sure that it's fun and exciting to play, and then if it's too strong, you'll see when you're playing, you've got one person playing, you're like homebrew, like, I don't know, you got a homebrew stapler race, and and it's like staples people to the ground, like no save, they're restrained, and it's like, oh, that's way too strong. But then you just give them a save to escape the staples, and like bam, suddenly it's like working. It's about as powerful as a mountain dwarf or something. It's like, it's great. So yeah, be down to play it and just see, and that will help a lot.
I think a couple of things you said there are great. The intuitive balance thing is one. I think a lot of people would be surprised at how, if you're not just thinking in your head, like if you're not being the min-maxer in the moment in your head, and you're being someone who is level, going, what's benefits and what's, pluses and minuses to this, to whatever I'm giving you, what can make this not work and what can make this work, and you're thinking about it logically. I think most D&D creators will be surprised how right they will get that balance, because if you play the game enough, like it's the same thing you said with reading. If you play the game enough, you start to understand, of around, level 5 players are averagely kind of dealing this much damage. Do you know what I mean? You start to understand, like, they should be able, in a big boss battle, we should have at least 1 or 2 of them knocked out, and the others scrambling to pull them out. You know what I mean? And so you can kind of, if you're a GM especially, you can kind of find that natural space in there, I feel like, to give things a right kind of balance. And it also can be like, I'm creating a legendary artifact that is a one-of-a-kind item, that is, this god killer sword, if you want to, or, it could be something as mundane as like, this is a tool belt, and, this gives you more item space, and you can put other things in here, kind of whatever it is, you can find that balance really easily, even within like the rarity range, or, the power range that you're kind of looking for as well, which I think becomes another factor. Dude, again, just all this advice is great. You're awesome at what you do. You're exceedingly articulate. It's
I don't know, man. I definitely just an idiot who blundered their way in, being loud. Just gotta shout, and it kind of works out, right? Shout at people about D&D in videos.
Dude, it fucking worked, dude. It fucking worked. It's dude, it's sold us, dude. It's sold us big time.
Yeah.
You're an animal, dude, and more than anything, we appreciate, we're small creators. We just appreciate you taking the time to come out of your busy day while you are working on
Absolutely.
such an incredible book to come in.
It's an honor just to be here, honestly, just to talk to people who are into it. And size like doesn't matter, right? Like it's it's about people who are good and like who are cool.
Totally.
It's just awesome to be here, really. So thanks for having me on. I suppose, are we wrapping? I kind of set to the cadence there. That was the ending cadence.
We're gonna wrap it up here, but I actually wanted to just hand over to you and say, is there anything, obviously shout out your socials of where people can find you, find your content. Is there anything, that you might want to tease, or anything that you might have coming up, in the background that you're thinking about? Maybe what's coming after Ryoku's? Give us a little something tasty.
A holiday. Where are you going on holiday, dude?
Yeah, I'm taking January off. That's going to be the first holiday I've had in years. In terms of teasers, we've committed to Ryoko's 2, but I don't know what direction that will take yet. That's a lot. Like I say, it takes like kind of 2 years just to get to the Kickstarter phase. But I will say that the beta test for Ryoko's is out this December. So if you want to play it like right now, you can still go. If you go to the Kickstarter page, there's a pre-order button. You just click that, and you'll get the beta test immediately. And that's where you can play stuff. You can see all the, like, I'm sure many spelling errors. And like you can be like, hey, this is really cool, but I didn't understand this, and you've made a mistake on this page, and this page references this page, but it's wrong. All that stuff, and you can kind of influence how the book will take shape, and you can tell us exactly what it needs to be the best version of itself, and get a shout out in the actual book when it's finally released. So if you wanted to pick it up before, but you don't like the idea of waiting, you want to get it in your buy it and it's there on my computer right now to start playing, you can do that from next month. So that's probably the best way. That's the thing that I'm thinking about now, is getting Ryoko's ready. It's all written now, so it's just it's literally the layout process and putting it all together in the most, and double checking stuff, making sure it's explained the right way. So that's probably the biggest tease I've got for the future, because I fly by the seat of my pants, man. Ryoko's 2.
In 2038.
For real, yeah, we'll see. It'll be a while away, but yeah, we have committed to it. That was our like final stretch goal, $3 million stretch goal. It's like, we'll do it again.
That is awesome. That's awesome.
But
dude, that's incredible. And thank you so much for taking time. Shout out your socials. Where can people
if you just YouTube DnDShorts, you'll find me. I'm on Instagram. I'm technically on Twitter, but I don't use Twitter unless like my industry is attacked by a big corporation. Otherwise, I just leave Twitter alone. Instagram DnDShorts, TikTok DnDShorts, and YouTube DnDShorts. Those are the 3 socials that I do. That's the peak of my socialness. So any of those would be great. Or Ryoko's guide on Kickstarter. That's basically everything. Yeah.
Go get the beta test, you crazy motherfuckers, because if you don't, you're making mistakes. You're making mistakes out here. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everyone who watches the show. We really, really appreciate it, as per usual. If you want to join our ever-growing Discord community, we're getting close to 1,000 people in there now, and we're super hyped to have so many incredible people in there engaging, and really, we're just trying to build it. So a couple teasers on our end. We will be hosting some workshops very soon for Dungeon Masters and Dungeons and Dragons players. I will likely be running those alongside guest GMs and people like that. So if you're interested in anything like that, we would love to see you there, asking questions, participating in the weird and wonderful, stupid activities I come up for you people. And as well as that, just come and shoot the shit with us. Come join a community that's super loving, super awesome, super inclusive, diverse. It's the space to be. Other than that, we've been Homie and the Dude, father and son, TTRPG, MMA team. We really appreciate you coming out, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Thanks,
Peace.
Will.
Bye. See you later.